All right, it's 6:46. I'll call to order this meeting of the Columbus Common Council Committee of the Whole for Tuesday, January 3rd, 2017. And when you're ready, could you please take the roll?
Crombie.
Here.
Hendrickson.
Here.
Malott.
Here.
Reed.
Here.
Rule.
Here.
Tone.
Here.
Traxler.
Here.
All present.
This meeting has been noticed appropriately according to state statutes. Next, we need a motion to approve the agenda. I hope people could be a little flexible since Dave Arnott's not here yet. On number 6, maybe we can kind of push that down. And also maybe number 7 we could push down for discussion later, since we've got Davis Clark here to discuss the Public Works trucks, and then also Dan's here for the police vehicle. So if we could kind of push those 2 down. If everyone's all right with that, I'll take a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Seeing none, the agenda is approved. Up next then is citizen comments on agenda items. Was anyone signed up back there, Bill?
Negative.
No one signed up. Is there anyone present that wanted to speak during this meeting on anything? All right, seeing none. Move on to item number 5, which is the discussion of the snowmobile trail. There's a memo in our packet briefly outlining the situation we're dealing with right now. And it sounds like Patrick maybe wanted to just get this up here for some discussion amongst the council to see what action, if anyone wants to take on this. We did have the Quintana family here at the last meeting under citizen comment expressing the concerns that they have in their neighborhood with the trail. And I guess I'll open it up to the council if anyone has any desire to present options or fixes to this, or what we should be doing.
Well, I guess I can kick it off. Patrick, I know you had mentioned in the memo that you had let the Snowmobile Club know that we had this on the agenda today. I don't know if anyone's here on their behalf. I guess I have a couple questions. Other council members may also, if you wouldn't mind. So just for everyone's benefit, some of the history on this, we heard from the Quintana family last meeting, and had it put on the agenda for this week for more discussion. I know in speaking with Dave Wiseman, he was looking into alternative options for this particular problem with the route running behind the houses over by Associated Bank. Can you give us an update on where that's at?
We're still approaching different avenues of getting the trail out of there, but due to the season already going and landowners having to be contacted and work through the process, it's taking a while to get the ducks in a row per se. And we are completely sympathetic of the situation, and we are working towards trying to better it. The reason the fence was put up because there was a concern of property damage, and that's why we narrowed that corridor up and didn't give them an option to do any harm per se.
Right.
And that's the only reason that fence was erected, and it seemed to be working, is from what I can tell.
Right, and I would invite the Quintanas to speak more on that issue as well. I know, I think the action from the Snowmobile Club was prompt and responsive. I think there's an aesthetic issue that the citizens have with the way the fence looks. Obviously, we have no snow right now, so it hasn't really been an issue, I think, recently. But I personally thought having just an update with the council and taking any other council concerns at this point would be appropriate. I don't know if any other members have heard from their constituents to a point where they'd want to address the club. No?
Yeah, I haven't heard from anybody in addition to the Quintanas.
Go ahead, Kelly.
Why couldn't the trail go to the intersection by Chester Bandits and then take Park Avenue back to where it hits up with the park?
That is one of the options we are currently looking at, but some of the way the stuff lays out, like Inglesby is a hard 45 the wrong way, and it would be hard to navigate with a snowmobile. That's why we kind of cut through the Napa right there, because it does line up well with Inglesby, but that is an option we're pursuing. And we're also in talks with Eddie at Chester Bandits to possibly utilize some of his property behind his gas station and still utilize the Napa lot to get back to where we were, but just bisecting where they live.
Do you have an approximate timeline or any sense of, where you're at in the process?
Like I said, we're in talks right now. There's nothing set in stone. It is a downtime right now. The trail's been closed just as long as they've been open, so there is opportunity to do something yet, but we're not going to say 100% sure because we're not positive on answers yet.
I don't know if Mario and Lisa, do you want to add anything or comment?
First of all, we're not anti-snowmobile.
No, I get that.
Yeah, and we appreciate all you're doing. So we want to work with you guys and stuff, but there was 2 times that the hours were violated. Once was at 10:15, which is not that big of a deal, but then once there was at 2 o'clock in the morning. And that was another thing that came up. It's like, well, how do you police that? You can't have somebody at the trails 24 hours a day.
Call the police.
To honor the hours. And so it woke us up at 2 o'clock in the morning, which, the bar is closed, just saying. So that was, when it's that close to a house, I think that needs to be taken into consideration.
Correct, and that's why we're pursuing different avenues right now.
I just want to mention that I really appreciate the fact that you guys are working on this right away, and that
We're trying.
yeah.
I mean, we want to have a positive impact on everybody, and it is affecting people. We want to be good neighbors. That's all we want to do.
Yeah, we really appreciate it, and I appreciate the fact that there's a snowmobile club here in town that can educate people and, make sure that people know what the rules are and as much as possible obey the rules.
Correct.
So I appreciate the work that you guys are doing in that area.
Thank you.
Also.
Patrick, did you have a comment?
Just in considering what Jake has said, and of course taking into account what Mario and Lisa brought up when we're talking about the BP station, as you're coming up Tower, is it even possible to utilize the right-of-way along Tower Drive, make the turn there, and then go? And in the absence of needing to use Eddie's property, is that something that could be a potential solution here? I'm just throwing that out.
Right of way, do you mean like the terrace area?
Yeah. I mean, we've got Water Street, which utilizes the terrace area and, city property, and some folks have concerns with being adjacent to it, but it is city property. So I just tossed
There's
that out as something.
Terrace just on the one side of the street though, right?
Well, city right
I mean,
away.
I know you've got it on the other side too, but that's a
Yeah,
whole nother animal.
I don't know.
There's not really, but there's not really terrace once you get past Associated Bank. Eddie's doesn't really have
True.
a sidewalk. There is
A big apron to the parking
a
lot.
bunch of pavement,
Mhm.
of course, but where his sign is, it doesn't actually come to a, you can get safely through, but there's no, it's a little.
Andy, did you have a comment?
Yeah, just, as far as the trail, the snowmobile rider that came through at 2 in the morning, does anybody know the police were called? Did you guys call the police? Because that's who polices the snowmobile trail.
That's not true. I
That's,
mean, they can collect complaints, but,
they can't police the trail?
well,
'Cause that's-
we don't have a snowmobile to do that with.
But
That's-
if they're riding through town,
Yep.
you can, you could find them. I thought that's what I asked that in one of the other meetings, before we approved the trail, was how was it gonna be policed, and I was told the police department can police the trail.
Right, but that's just the same as if I call 911 because someone's speeding. I mean,
But my question was,
you may or may
do
not.
we know if anybody called the police for that? You didn't, I
I
assume.
didn't think to call the police,
And that's fine, I
by
was
the
just
time it
asking.
happened, the person was gone. It could have been somebody from out of town.
Right.
If wasn't necessarily anyone from the snowmobile club. And that's one of our concerns is that, you know, people, that's an open trail, right? Anyone
yeah.
can use that?
Correct.
And so I don't anticipate that people from the snowmobile club would violate the rules. But it being an open trail, anybody can get on that trail at any
Right.
time. And the snowmobile, we have had no concerns about noise. Snowmobiles really aren't that loud. But this one was different.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was
2 in the morning will do
a
that.
racing snowmobile or if somebody just gunned it to go through there, but it was a lot louder than any of the other snowmobiles that I had heard. So it was not only 2 a.m., but it was a loud snowmobile. But it didn't really enter my head to go call the police.
Sure, and that was my concern from the beginning with this trail was how would we police these issues, and you know, that's kind of where I was led to believe that
The police have jurisdiction. They
Right.
can stop anybody, you know, that is not following the rules. It's just
Okay.
same as a car. There are set
Right.
laws and rules they have to follow. We do have the hours of operation on every point of access to this town that goes to the city trail. So,
Yeah.
I mean, there is no way they wouldn't know that they weren't in violation. I mean, that person made a bad decision. You know, I can't speak for everybody, but people are their own people.
Oh, right. And, you know, and this kind of brings up, you know, this whole discussion makes me wonder, you know, we want to move the trail for this particular situation, but we got complaints at the beginning of the year from the people on Church and Ludington. We got a complaint right away before we even opened the trail.
That's
And
right.
we did nothing. We didn't even consider anything. No one came in, you know. It's just, I feel like now we're, you know, that someone actually came in and said something as opposed to emailing us or contacting us by phone, that now we're going to do whatever it takes to do this. And I don't think that's fair to the people on the other side of town. So I think when we consider this, we need to consider everybody, all of the options. So that's all.
Well, I think sorry.
You can.
Okay. I think that there's been now 3 different iterations of the snowmobile trail, and this would be this. This has been then the second time that it's been an issue in the backyard compared to city property. And granted, this is Associated Bank property, and they've given permission, but I think that's a different. It's a different issue when it's on city property than when it's in a backyard. And I think that when this trail was originally approved, there were no houses in that subdivision, and I think that's something that has considerably changed. There were, you know, two houses in the entire subdivision constructed at that point, and now it's pretty full.
All right. Rod?
This kind of reminds me of when we're talking about changing the school pickup and drop off routes in the middle of the season, and I'm wondering how hard is it to change the snowmobile route? Are there pamphlets printed, stuff like that?
No.
Is it just signs?
Change signage, stuff like that. We have to put up like a no snowmobiling because people, you know, they know the trail the way it is right now, and we're gonna have to try to redirect them per se. But I'm not sure. You know, like I said, we're not 100% sure we can even go that far yet.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't know if there were, you know, if websites.
I mean, we would
material.
post it on our Facebook page and stuff like that. I mean, but the major thing we can do is just move signs around.
Is that a problem in the middle of the season?
Right now, they're not frozen, but
Yeah.
otherwise it would have been a problem.
Okay. Thanks.
Yep.
Rod, to add to your question, I think the one thing that the council's not addressing in this is that if the trail is amended, it should be memorialized by the council because that's part of the ordinance. So, I mean, now that we've, you know, approved the trail for the year, as the ordinance says, if it's going to be changed, it should go through that process with the council as well.
And that was another subject I was going to ask about because of that whole issue of getting approved again, if that was
It's,
the way it's going to go. But
from my understanding, that's the way the ordinance is. If the
Right.
trail changes, it should be memorialized.
I'm not saying I'd I'd like to see it stay the same for 1 year and then pursue our other options beyond that. We know that is a limited trail, the way it is. All it takes is one lot to sell and then it's done. We know that's going to be the future of that. So, we are looking to get it somewhere else.
Yeah. Reagan, did you have another question?
Actually, I was still interested in Patrick's alternative route and maybe was you talking about taking everybody up just that one side that Associated's on?
Yeah, I mean, when I talk about right-of-way, I mean, yes, the traditional thinking is right-of-way is anything in the terrace area, but the city's got right-of-way on streets that don't have sidewalks, so I don't know off the top of my head how much right-of-way there is on that corner there, but I thought it would be worth looking at. I think some points have been made about signage and things in proximity, so that may create some obstacles there, but I thought at least it would keep them out of the residential area, more to a commercial spot to get to the same point where they need to as they enter Fireman's Park. So,
Thanks.
I think a lot of the concerns that the Quintanas have raised, the snowmobile trail has been here for 3 years now.
Pretty much, yeah.
These are all issues that we have discussed. These are all concerns that we've brought up before. So I appreciate you bringing them forward. But again, I think Andy kind of maybe mentioned this. There are people that live in my neighborhood that they didn't like the snowmobile trail the first year. They just didn't. They felt like they wanted their peace and tranquility, and they complained to me, and the trail's still in front of their house. So we're getting into the situation now where what are we going to do? Adopt a trail and then move it around every house that doesn't like it? It's an ordinance. We either have to do it or not do it, or find a trail that everyone's going to be happy with. The enforcement issue, we can say we're enforcing it, but I don't believe there's a chance for anybody to report any information that's going to be useful. I've seen snowmobiles go by this year that are probably going a little bit faster than I would like. I'd say the first year people were very careful about being cautious and respectful, and this year I'm seeing people that aren't really looking up for vehicles backing out of their driveways, maybe going a little bit quicker, and maybe when you have more snow, they're more comfortable in doing that. The non-club members, I think that was raised the first year. I think the club members do a really good job. They want to set a good example, but you're connecting this trail in town to every county trail all the way around it, so that you can't restrict anybody from coming in here. And if they decide to come in after hours, it can happen. And also the sound issue. You brought up the proximity to your home, and I believe at the last meeting you had said about 50 feet or less than 50 feet from your house. Well, technically the trail is less than 50 feet from my house, being on a street, and there are some houses that are literally 20 feet away from the street. It's closer to them as well. And if you have a snowmobile going through a field or something that's covered with snow and there's fresh snowfall, I think that absorbs some of the sound. But when you have snowmobiles going between houses with reflective hard surfaces, that echoes a little bit more, and it bothers people in those residential environments as well. So these are all issues we've talked about before, but I don't see it being reasonable to amend the trail for one issue right now. I think that all the issues need to be addressed evenly, and I don't know that we do that this year. I just can't see that happening. Reagan?
If we do not address the trail this year, whether we can't find an alternate route, I believe the ordinance also says we have to talk about this in the spring, right? And we didn't do that this past year, so I'd like to just get that out there now that we have to start talking about this in March, bring all options and get this worked out hopefully before summer.
Yep, I agree with that.
Okay.
Sooner the better.
Thank you.
So what's the will of the council at this point? Does anyone?
My opinion is we stick with how it is. I mean, it's how we voted, and it's not fair to change it for, one family and not the other families that have also complained. I mean, as we've gone, when we moved through this process, we decided this was going to be, again, another trial year. So, if this doesn't work out, then, we got to come up with one that will, or go back to how it was, where you just access the trail from your house, and we got to clean it up.
So there's no directive from council at this point? All right, seeing none, I guess I think we still need to encourage residents that have issues or whatever to get in contact with us.
We can't fix anything if we don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
And they've been very proactive, and that's what led to a lot of the solutions. And, ultimately not the one they're looking for yet, but we're working on it.
All right, thanks, Jake.
Thank you.
All right, unless there's anything else, we'll move on to the next agenda item then. We have Dave Arnott here. Discussion of change order to filter influent pump improvements for the wastewater treatment plant. Hey, Dave.
Good evening. Thank you for your time this evening. I'd like to talk about a project that we are recommending. So this project has to do with the installation of some instrumentation, and this is not related per se to the filter controls, but I'll get around to how we're linking it together. So the instrumentation consists of two parts. The first part has to do with a online phosphorus analyzer, and this will help the city in its efforts to optimize and lower phosphorus removals at the wastewater treatment plant. What this does is it gives real-time readings of the phosphorus levels after treatment in the wastewater plant, and it will relay those levels back to the SCADA system. This SCADA system is a supervisory control and data acquisition system that the operators monitor throughout the day. And it'll be trended, the information, and then the operators can use that in relation to a target level and dial the pump that injects chemical, which controls phosphorus levels, either increase the dosage or decrease the dosage. So what this will help with is giving a tool to the city to be able to achieve lower phosphorus levels and more consistent phosphorus levels. And that's important because of the significant industrial loading that the city experiences. If you receive a slug of phosphorus in your influent, that's going to go through the plant, and you'll see a spike in your effluent as well. So we don't recommend this equipment for all municipalities, but when there is industrial loading, we feel it's advantageous to have this. The other piece of equipment that's related is it's also an analyzer, and it's going to be measuring the total solids concentration in the aeration basin. So John and the operators will use that information to better control the health of the bugs in the aeration basin and control the wasting of the biosolids. And basically just achieve a more uniform and consistent process. Right now they don't have access to that real-time solids information, and the technical term is mixed liquor suspended solids. They would have that, again, that would be routed back to the SCADA system, and it would be another tool in the toolbox that the operators use to achieve a very consistent water quality. So we knew that the contractor right now for the filter controls, they're in the middle of their project at the plant. We asked them for a quotation for this work. Rupert Milky did the engineering and worked with the supplier and made up a little sketch here of the work that's involved. The work consists of installation of various conduits, wiring, junction boxes, and the two analyzers. And that contractor came back with a cost of $43,933.00. And we're proposing that this is added on to the work that Hogan Electric was already doing at the plant for the filter control updates. They're already mobilized. It's the same type of work. So we thought it was logical that this could be kind of a piggyback on that project. We did not get a second quote. We can do that if the council would like to do that. There's not a time element to this. Whether this project happens in 3 weeks or 3 months or 4 months really doesn't matter in the big picture. But what we do need to do is demonstrate to Wisconsin DNR that you are actively trying to lower your phosphorus levels from your plant, and you have done that already through other steps. This would be one more thing, and we think overall it's going to help the city.
Is that the only place where we're responsible for the level of phosphorus is directly right by our plant? Or are there other areas in the watershed that they monitor that we're responsible for?
This is the only spot the city is responsible for. You don't have a stormwater permit, so you have a specific permit for the wastewater treatment plant, and that there are specific requirements in that permit, and that's how this comes into play.
And that's the only place they measure the phosphorus that we're responsible for, is at the plant? That's what I'm getting to is,
Yes,
okay,
yes.
thank you.
Is this then going to be part of kind of the longer-term plan for phosphorus reduction as well?
Yes.
Okay,
It would definitely roll into the long-term plan.
okay. I think the question's probably more for Patrick, but Patrick, do you know if that additional we'll call it $44,000, is that available in the sewer fund to have that work done?
Yeah, that would come out of the sewer replacement fund for the plant. So the kind of the expenses that are designated for that piece of the sewer budget.
Okay, and would there be a second quote required by statute for that or not, or does that fall under the threshold? Repair? Okay,
So that would not then.
okay. Does anybody else have any questions up here? I think it falls down to if we feel comfortable that you're getting a fair price from the contractor, they're doing good work, and you can get it done quicker instead of having to go out and start the bid process all over again, whether or not the council is comfortable with just taking that bid. Davis, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I don't know if Dave bid on it, but there will be a cost savings in the amount of chemicals that we use.
That-
Putting in.
Yeah, that's a good point, Davis. This will help to reduce the amount of chemical that you use. Instead of, dialing up the chemical, dialing back, you'll be able to monitor where you are better, and you won't have any excess chemical. Not that there's a lot of excess now, but you'll have a very better idea of where you are. Now, initially, this will not be tied into the chemical pumps themselves. It'll just be a manual adjustment that the operators do. That could be something that the city considers 2 or 3 years down the road as a second step, automating the chemical dosage to read directly off this piece of equipment. But we felt it didn't warrant going that far right away. That this will be a great improvement just to have this and have that real-time information being fed back to the operators.
Sure. Any other questions from council? I mean, I think this sounds like pretty favorable to get it done now that you've got the contractor there and it's the first step. So,
What's the DNR deadline again, Dave? I know it's sometime 2024?
I believe 2024.
Okay.
Yeah. That's to achieve compliance. There's a number of intermediate steps before then.
Right, yeah, we'll talk about it again.
do we get extra credit for being proactive in these situations by doing this, really, or not? No.
No.
We just don't get yelled at.
Well, I think it's good to be proactive.
Absolutely.
Anyhow.
Especially with the phosphorus levels and
Yeah.
nitrates and all kinds of fun stuff.
All right. Did you have anything else, Dave?
No.
I think.
Any other questions?
Thank
We're good.
you.
We'll bring this forward to the next regular meeting then. Thanks, Dave. Is it all right if we move number 7 down and go to number 8?
Yes.
Since Davis is here. Go to number 8 then. Consider information on purchase of 2 dump truck or dump plow trucks for Department of Public Works. Let's see, 90% of our packet is information.
There is a lot of information. Again,
Yeah.
thanks for considering this tonight. You know what kind of vehicles we have. You know the age of some of our trucks. You've seen them. You've heard us talk about them. In the budget, we talked about the borrowing for 2 new plow trucks. One single axle. These are the large trucks. These aren't small dump trucks. These are the large ones. So 1 single axle and 1 tandem axle. What you have before you are 3 quotes for each. We have Western Star, we have Freightliner, and International. This is for the cab and chassis. This is not for the bed. This is not for the plow, the tailgate, the hydraulics. This is just a cab and chassis. You're looking at approximately another $120,000, $140,000 for the rest of the equipment.
Per dump truck?
Per truck.
Okay.
Because we are not experts on trucks, we drive them. We don't work on them. We have Duffy's work on them. I asked Troy Sawyer from Duffy's, he's the fleet manager, if he would come, and he's been working with us on the type of engine, the type of hydraulics, the type of brakes, the type of bed, everything. That's what he does for a living. We don't. So we've been working hand in hand with Troy. So I asked Troy to come along to answer any questions, maybe give you some more background on what we've been looking at and why we came up with the quotes that we have right now. So Troy, if you want to come on up and maybe give a little more background on what we've done so far.
How are you doing? Thanks for coming.
You bet.
I'll start off with the most obvious thing, the difference between the single axle and the dual axle. What are the benefits?
Well, we need one of each. Actually, there's 2 quoted. One single axle is a little shorter, lighter. Tandem axle is a bigger truck, and that's what we're replacing is 1 single and 1 tandem.
Okay.
So.
The double axle would carry more.
Yep, more weight.
More of a
Yep,
dump.
more wheelbase.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Do you have any preference between manufacturers, their reputations that follow them? I mean, I'm assuming these are all the most modern diesel
Yep.
efficiencies.
Yep. A lot of that is mostly due to the people that we work with. Quality of cab. We've kind of narrowed it down to 1 engine manufacturer because of serviceability, warranty, relationships I've had with them and with sales departments. Yeah, you just get a comfort. You know, we buy a lot of trucks in a year's time in our fleet. It's just something you get a comfort for, design advantages, efficiencies. So, yeah, a lot of it is warranty driven, and how well you feel you're being treated by the individual that sold it to you. Yeah, and the ease of getting it repaired when that comes into play.
So all of the Western Star, the International, and the Kenworth, they would all have the same engine?
Yep.
Essentially?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we did that by design, so we had all apples and apples.
Okay.
And transmission for that matter, Allison RDS,
Okay.
heavy automatics.
Questions from the council?
Kind of piggybacking off of yours, Mike, I was just wondering if there is some sort of like industry go-to, you know, like when we buy our own cars, you can go to like Consumer Reports, right, and get the vehicle rated and get a history of it and stuff like that. I know you've got a good, you know, a lot of experience working with these guys, so you've got a comfort level there, but is there anything like, rather than putting you on the spot and saying, which truck do you like best? You know, is there some sort of rating system or anything else that we could even look at? Or maybe you could just let us know who you think has the best.
I like the fact that Western Star is taking kind of a drive in this municipality. They weren't really big players in the large truck market, class 8 that we deal with, although making huge strides in everybody knows that there is a point in time where, you know, Mack built dump trucks, that's what they did well. Peterbilt was like a driver class leading, they all had these kind of holes that they fit in. Western Star has taken a huge leap in municipalities and building really nice quality cabs, because that's really, when you break them all down and you look at the truck, the engine, the transmission, the differentials, the frame rails, everything's made by somebody else, except for the cab. So you just look at things that they've done in design and said, all right, they're investing this huge amount of money in design into making a quality municipality truck, and that's really where they've gotten to. Now they've kind of made a piece better than the rest. So,
Single and tandem axle, you think that's...
Yep, that doesn't
holds?
matter. The cab is, you know, you can build this truck 300 inches. You
Right.
can build it at 160 inches, the cab, the hood. There's so many ways to build these trucks. So as far as it being real different between tandem or single axle, that's just a specking change. The cab
Okay.
will be pretty much identical, both pieces. The hood will be identical. The length in which, you know, they're built will be different.
Thanks, Troy.
Yep.
Andy, go ahead. This question is probably more for Davis. I recall that at one point when we were talking about purchasing these trucks, Kim was going to, I had mentioned that there might be a possibility to look for one that's like a couple years old, that the depreciations already came off of. So we're paying, you know, you're paying less for a 2-year-old truck. Do you know if that avenue was pursued at all?
We looked at some of that, and they're very hard to find. Anything that's just a couple of years old. You can find things that are 8, 10, 12 years old, pretty common, but just a couple years old, it was difficult finding what we were looking for. Not saying that there weren't any trucks out there, but to match up with apples to apples, new versus the couple years older, they weren't matching up. The other thing is, a couple years ago, Jenny and I did some test driving when we were first thinking we could get trucks. I don't know, 2 years ago, I think. And we test drove various types of these same trucks. The Western Star was by far the quietest in the cab, and which was really impressive to me. And we didn't really look at price. We were just kind of feeling things out. So this year we had all 3 of these vendors come in with a truck. I had my whole crew out there looking at them, driving them around. And again, not knowing what prices were, almost all of them preferred the Western Star, just in the cab, how quiet it was for the driver.
Okay, thank you. Rod?
I see the Western Star is the best price for the single and the tandem axle, and they both include 2 years towing. Do you think we can get a quantity deal by buying 2 from the same place?
Dylan?
I'm not represent the manufacturer, I'm building what that investors are. But we've already considered all that stuff, and actually, we believe giving you guys the most competitive price that we could, and that includes both the single and the tandem axle.
And nobody else is doing the towing either. These are the only guys that are throwing in 2 years of towing.
Okay.
So the answer is no.
I guess
Or it
the
already
answer is
happened.
it's already been put
already
into the
been-
bid, yeah.
It's
That's why
normally,
it's the lowest.
Yes.
it's normally done by concession. So when you do a single truck deal, your concession is a percentage of list price. Being a 2-truck deal, that concession is obviously more because you are buying 2 trucks, so.
Where are these built?
Mexico.
Mexico. The whole thing and then driven up here, or?
Yep, and we actually have multiple plants, so.
Put it on a boat.
We do have some in America as well, but the majority of these, the 4,700 is in Mexico. And I guess speaking to that, Western Star is one of the only manufacturers out there that promotes it as a hand-built, non-purely mechanical process, so they really pride themselves on, I guess, the quality of the manufacturing process.
How long do you think
these trucks will last you? I know that, there's averages and then there's other things that you can't.
I think we're replacing 98s. I think it's in your packet what the year of the trucks are, so every bit of that long. One of the things that we will be doing more diligently than maybe they have in the past is the undercoating, because they're salt trucks, so they're gonna, we have products that we can spray on to neutralize the salt after you're used. I don't know that they did that in the past, but that's one of the things that we'll be pursuing probably more feverishly so that we can make these last longer. But yeah, they'll all have undercoating on, and then we will, in addition to that, we'll be caring for them probably better than maybe they have in the past.
And is it mileage or is it just age and rust that's the issue right now? I mean, are the motors?
It's not mileage because they don't get a lot of high miles on them. So it's the age and the atmosphere, yeah, proximity to salt.
About how many miles do you have on the older units that we're replacing, do you know?
I don't know that offhand. Troy, you
I
might.
think 98, what was it, number?
47. 47 and number 8.
Yeah, there's probably 46,000 miles on the one.
Okay,
One that I can recall, I think.
okay.
So as compared to a police car, no, they don't get high miles, but it's just the atmosphere that they're in.
Okay, so as far as the warranty, I guess, would be looking at the 60 months. We're not gonna hit the
You won't hit
100,000
the
mile
100,
mark.
that's why, that's why the 60 month. And plus now we're dealing with emissions and after treatment, so warranty's pretty important.
What is the after treatment coverage? Could you explain that?
Diesel particulate filter, obviously we're gonna stuff the engine back full of smoke. Exhaust gas recirculation, we trap it in the muffler, we treat it with a chemical, which is urea. That's helped enormously. I mean, we lived that in '09. Actually 7 to 10, it was pretty ugly. Cost us a lot of money, and it was not a perfected, EPA kind of stuffed it to us and said, this is what you have to play with, and it didn't work. Well, now it's getting better and better and better, but anytime you, a lot more sensors, another process, urea, which is SCR, that stuff freezes, so you gotta heat it. There's heaters, there's lines, we don't buy anything without warranty for after treatment, because it's expensive to maintain, and, think about the environment, so
Thanks.
warranty's kind of a no-brainer.
Okay. Kelly?
Davis, I'm assuming then the dump box, the plow wing, salter, all that accessories that get put on the truck, those are non-transferable and they're probably pretty well rusted and stuff as well?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no,
What we will be doing though is if this is approved and we get the two new trucks, the old trucks will go on auction, so we'll be able to recoup some of the money. I can't say how much, but we'll get something for them.
They got low mileage.
Yeah.
That's how you market
drove it
them.
to church every Sunday, right?
Is it- Any more questions from the council on this? I see none. I don't know, I know that you're just kind of coming in for the first time and presenting all this stuff, so you'll have to let us know the timeline. on
Yeah,
we
what we would be looking for is approval at the next meeting to purchase these.
Okay.
And then, once that approval is done, then we can start going after the bed, the plow, so we know what truck we can have the body built for. And then we would come back again to a committee of the whole with the body and plow and the rest of it for your approval.
It
So
sounds
we're
like-
looking for approval at the next meeting.
Okay, but it sounds like you're favoring the Western Star.
Yeah.
Which would be, I guess, I don't want to say the word inexpensive, but the least costly out of the three options
Correct.
that you have printed. And then there would be one single axle and one tandem axle.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
If
Rob?
and when we approve this, what's the timeline for actually receiving these?
90 days, I believe.
March. Just after winter.
Yep. Yeah, they'll be ready for next year. Because the beds and all that will take,
They have to be put on.
yeah, that'll take some time for them to be built as well.
We can get snow in April too, Davis.
We can. We can. We have.
All right, I don't see anything else. Thanks for coming in, Troy,
Yeah,
and helping
thank you, guys.
explain it. Thank you. Okay. Can we move on to number 9 quick, since Dan is waiting patiently?
Yes.
Consider lease of 2 squads for the police department. We've talked about this over the budget cycle. I believe Dan left some information at our desks for this evening.
Excuse me.
I don't know if everybody received my email today. Did anybody go print it?
I think
we got these.
I think we got one. Is it the same thing?
Is it the back of page 1?
This is just from today. Yep, okay, perfect.
Yep.
All right, we will make sure we recycle these. Appropriately. So some of the documents you have in your packet should be familiar. You saw them during the budget process, the quotes from Baycom for the mobile data computers, the cameras, and from Belco for the install. The spreadsheet, which is on the back of the first page, is just something I put together today for kind of a quick look to show you what the total cost is going to be compared to what we budgeted. And if the prices don't change or we don't run into any unforeseen expenses, we're going to be pretty close to $2,000 under what we budgeted, so that's a good thing. The next document is the lease purchase paperwork from Ford that was sent to us. That's something that if and when this gets approved, we have to fill that out and send that into Ford, and then they can actually go ahead and process the purchase of the 2 vehicles. These documents, from what I've seen, are very similar to the ones that we filled out in 2014 for the other cars. So very similar. I didn't see anything different there or anything radically that changed. And then, like I said, the following pages are just the breakdown of the costs for the vehicles, the installation of all the equipment, the purchase of the mobile data computers, and the camera systems. I don't know if there were any other questions regarding.
Has anything really changed between the discussion during the budget and
No,
today?
we went out and we got 2 bids from 2 dealerships, and between the 2 dealerships, the one that we like to go with, there was a pretty significant price difference. It was almost $2,000 less than the other dealership for the car, so that's what we'd like to go with on that one. And that's the dealership we purchased from in 14 as well.
And since, when was the last payment then on the last 2 sets of squads? Was that,
That was about a year ago.
and there were no surprises at
Nope.
all? Everything worked out exactly the way you expected?
Everything worked out, and we own the vehicles, and the
Okay.
titles were transferred to us.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Dan? Rod, go ahead.
Yeah, how long do you expect to use these 2 vehicles? Is it a 3-year rotation, or, I know you're really tough on,
Normally, we look at a 3-year rotation, but the way we've been alternating the cars, we're hoping to get 4 years out of them. It also depends upon, the newer cars, we're seeing that they're lasting a little bit longer, the quality, how they're building them, and the mileage and the economy we get. So it used to be about 3 years, but we're trying to get 4 years out of them.
that's it, excellent, thanks.
Is there any value to the old stuff you need to take out of the old vehicles, the stuff that doesn't transfer? Is there any value in that?
Not really. We see other departments trying to sell their used stuff too, and nobody's really buying it because nobody has the older Crown Victorias much anymore. We still have stuff from, I think, the 2008 car that we haven't been able to get rid of. There will be some equipment we'll be transferring, radios and some electronic stuff to the new squads, but then similar to what Davis is doing with the old trucks and what we've done with the old cars, we're going to put the 2009 and 2011 hopefully up for auction. And I don't know what we're going to get. Those are really high mileage, but anything we can recoup would be great.
When you auction those off, then do you leave all the stuff in it, or do you strip the cars of the
We strip
equipment?
most of it, of course, whatever we're going to use, and then some of the other stuff we take out. In this case, if we don't think we're going to reuse anything, we'll probably just leave them in there, and that may add to the, the selling point, because maybe another department would see it and purchase that way. In the past, we've had to strip everything because we were able to transfer it.
Okay. Any further questions from the council on this? I see none. So I'm assuming you want approval like at the next meeting, so you can go ahead and order them. And
Right, soon as I get that, then I have to get that paperwork out to Ford Credit, and then they can actually reserve the cars for us. We just kind of put a placeholder on them for now. It's
Okay.
about a 2-month build time, 2 to 3 months, and then probably another month to get all the other stuff installed in it, so.
Okay. I guess we'll bring that to the next regular meeting for approval then.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Dan.
Thank you.
All right, then we'll move back to number 7 quick, which is the draft ordinance to repeal and recreate part of Chapter 82 concerning the collection and disposal of solid waste. We had made some comments to Attorney Johnson at the last meeting about some things that we wanted to see, and he has an updated version of that at our desks. Did you want to say anything, or you want to wait for questions?
Point out the changes that I made, if that is easier. That might be, make it a little bit faster. At the last meeting, there was a couple of questions about the definition of what a front yard was, and that's in 82.34. I added a sentence at the end of that section that takes the same language from the zoning code as to what a definition of front yard is. I figured consistency is good. So that is now in there. In 82-35, I removed the 3-bag limit and for garbage bags, and I took out the clear plastic reference to garbage bags, but I left the rest in about the 35 gallons and the 55 pounds. I don't know if you wanted to take that out or not. In 82-38, I prohibited mattresses from being put out at the curb. And in 82-41, I removed the reference that said that the recycling center is where you go to drop off your recyclables. And in 82-43, I deleted the reference to the Public Works Board and tried to add some language about compliance and enforcement based on what I think is going to be happening with how the county's gonna work, and if there are any violators, how that's going to happen. It's probably that section that is open for discussion more than anything else. Otherwise, I think I brought everything current to what the county had in mind. I was mostly, from the county's perspective, I was mostly concerned with that list in paragraph 2 on the first page. And I think, did you check that, Patrick? So I think that that's okay.
The section 82-38, where you had basically pointed out that you can't put mattresses out, I don't, without looking at the entire code, I don't know that that addresses all of the issues. I mean, mattresses are an issue, but it's also furniture, you know, there's other things that don't qualify. Are we being specific there for a reason, or could we expand that language to encompass what's prohibited?
You can certainly, 8238 is entitled Prohibited Activities and Non-Collectible Materials. And it says in paragraph E, non-collectible materials, hazardous waste, drain or waste oil, flammable liquids, tires, undrained, wet, unwrapped kitchen garbage or offal. I don't even know what offal is.
I do.
Yeah.
I won't describe
Thank
it.
you. Where's Dave when I need him? Building and demolition waste, and so I just added mattresses to that list.
Okay.
You could certainly be much more specific if you want to.
I know mattresses are an issue. Any questions from anybody here?
I think it wouldn't be unreasonable to include mattresses and similar large furniture items. I mean, I think that's what we were hearing at the
TVs.
listening session.
Well, I think there's something in there
TVs
that
they can't do
prohibits,
anyway.
I mean,
Is it?
State law prohibits the
white
TV.
goods or something that special arrangements need to be made for that, which like a television might fall under.
Well, you have language for white goods, but white goods is certainly not big furniture. And I don't think that would be TVs either. So it probably does not hurt to mention those specifically.
The TV is covered by state statute.
I'm thinking
But sofas are something that's, obviously, we all see those in the right of way.
Kelly, go ahead.
I mean, aren't these almost two separate issues? The first issue being like the residential type pickup, and then isn't the bigger issue, would that almost be a separate ordinance that you can't, I think the problem is like people moving out and just dumping it on the curb and then leaving. I mean, it's kind of two, they're related issues, but it's almost a whole separate problem than your regular pickup.
Yeah, you could certainly separate them if you wanted to. Your chapter 82 that exists right now,
I mean, is there a separate section on that right now?
no,
There's nothing
I don't
separate?
think so.
Okay.
For basically leaving, moving out and leaving all your crap that you know is not gonna be picked up. And, that probably falls under 82-1, which is littering. Littering prohibited. Glass, refuse, waste, filth, other litter upon the streets, alleys, highways, parks, or property of the city, upon any private property or upon the surface of any body of water within the city. So that probably is a general blanket to what you're talking about, Kelly. Again, it doesn't hurt to be specific, and you certainly can if you want to.
That's a good point. Any questions? I kind of feel like, I looked at this really quickly today, but it's hard for me to know without looking at the entire ordinance and then putting these fixes in there, what is covered and what isn't covered. And I've looked at the ordinance before the last time we had this discussion and made some notes, but unfortunately didn't spend a lot of my holiday time looking at section 82. Sorry. I think that we've got some good language added in here, but I feel like if we're gonna do it, let's go through the whole thing and make sure that we've kind of done it all. Is it all right for us to table this to the next committee of the whole? And then maybe at the next committee of the whole, we could actually get just a copy of the entirety of section 82 and then kind of lay the changes against that. Maybe that would be more productive.
Paul, are you able to do it in a red line format?
What exactly would you like?
We just take basically the section 82 and then take the changes that you've put in there, but so we can look at the entire ordinance to see what we've touched and what we haven't. Because I think you've applied a few fixes.
Get that in the Word document from you? Then yes.
Okay, I think that would be helpful. Andy, did you have a?
I thought that we had talked about 8235B, the replacement of the carts wasn't going to be charged. The first one was
Right.
covered, maybe,
Maybe something.
and I don't see it. Maybe I'm overlooking it, but I'm pretty sure we're still charging. It doesn't specify that what's being replaced. I know that the warranty might have included like
Yeah,
wheels and knobs and whatever.
I think the contract said the first replacement was on them, and the second one would be on us, and then the city.
This language is in here solely so that if you end up having
Right.
to pay for one, that you can turn around and go back after the resident. That's why this is in here. The contract will control
Okay.
When?
that first part of the conversation, and this gives you the ability to charge it back.
Yeah. So it doesn't mean you have to do it.
Right.
Gotcha. There may be other circumstances that happen. Yeah.
Yeah, I can give you a compare and contrast of the entire chapter with what we have here, and then you can go from there.
I think that would be helpful. Everybody okay?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, we'll table that to the next committee of the whole and discuss it further then.
Right. Yeah, well, some of it we did keep.
I think we got all the agenda items
This is
in.
a fairly heavy change.
Unless there's
so
anything
it
else,
might
I'll
be
take a
good
motion
idea
to adjourn.
repeal and recreate
Motion to
the
adjourn.
chapter when we get-
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, we're adjourned.